pensa o diretor executivo da MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, a maior organização civil de pesquisa ufológica. Ele vai dizer pra gente aqui nessa entrevista muita coisa que vai você repensar sobre o que você acredita com relação ao fenômeno ufológico. Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, boa madrugada, aonde você estiver. Eu sou Thiago Luiz TICCHETTI. Sejam bem-vindos ao canal Desvendando Mistérios. Olá pessoal, e hoje eu trago para vocês mais uma entrevista inédita e exclusiva que você só encontra aqui no canal Desvendando Mistérios. Quem vai estar aqui com a gente é David MacDonald, o diretor executivo da MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, a maior organização de pesquisa civil ufológica de todo o mundo. Ele vai falar para a gente como que ele entrou na MUFON, quais os casos mais interessantes que ele já pesquisou, sendo investigador da MUFON, ele foi investigador da MUFON, e também como a MUFON vê o futuro. Então vem comigo, essa entrevista inédita e exclusiva para você.
Hi David, thank you very much for being here in my YouTube channel. I think it's this opportunity to Brazilian audience know you much better and know much about MUFON, because I told you MUFON, I love MUFON since I was a child, a teenager. And I think in your hands, MUFON's going forward and will grow up very, 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 very strong. I mean, go ahead.
Good morning to you too. And really, it's great and an honor to be here with you. I agree, MUFON is strong, it's stable, we're doing a great job, and the best is yet to come.
That's great. Well, let's start our interview, and I will ask you the same question that I ask all my guests. What led you to the UFO investigation?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm an old dog, and I read my first book on flying saucers. I guess I was maybe 10 or 12 years old. And sir, I've just never stopped. It's been a constant source of interest. And as I continued my readings and listening, and I was on the computer one evening, just monitoring UFO stuff, and up pops this organization called MUFON. And I got to reading it, and I thought, doggone, that where have these guys been all my life? So I joined and moved up through the ranks pretty quick, and here I am. So it's been a lifelong interest for me as well.
That's great, and I read about your bio, and you read many books, of course, but what one book impacted your life? This book was Project Blue Book. Is it correct?
That is correct. Project Blue Book was out then. There was some other ones like The Men Who Knew Too Much and a number of other really early publications. But Project Blue Book, it was a turning point. Very interesting. And I also, I started my career as a chemist, and I worked at a company with none other than Leonard Stringfield. And it's all his fault I'm in this. We would talk during lunch breaks and all this stuff, and he'd tell me all of his adventures, and I got hooked pretty quick.
And then you now are the executive director of MUFON, and the people in Brazil knows MUFON because I think the world knows MUFON. But I would like you to tell us, the Brazilian audience, what is MUFON?
MUFON, it began as the Midwest UFO Network. It was founded in Texas, 1969, as a response to the shutting down of Project Blue Book. Now, when they shut that down, supposedly because there was no interest in it, it left a gap. There was no place where people could go and submit their reports and their sightings. So MUFON picked up where Blue Book left off. I mean, we had the same reporting systems, darn near the same forms, and it was just a seamless changeover. Well, it grew and it grew and it grew, and they changed the name to Mutual UFO Network to better fit the larger scope. At this time, MUFON is the largest, the oldest civilian UFO investigating agency in the world. We have an enormous database, and I can tell you more about that as we go on. There's an enormous amount of things happening within MUFON. Our Project Aquarius, which is moving ahead, will literally produce, again, the largest translatable, searchable database in the world. And it's really, really close. So that's how MUFON started. And in a nutshell, that's where we are now. And I'm proud to be a part of it.
I'm proud to be a part of it too. I have my button, my pin here, and I have my stamp here. And I'm a national director of MUFON in Brazil, and I receive many reports in Brazil. But how many reports does MUFON receive every day, every week? How many?
We do between 8,000 and 10,000 cases a year. So you can break that down to, 8,000 a month, 7,000 a month, something like that. Keeps us quite busy. And interestingly, we can identify, or I should say explain, about 92% of those cases as either natural phenomenon, man-made, some are hoaxes. But, sir, that last 8% that are unknown, they'll make your eyes spin round and round. I mean, they're fascinating. So yeah, we do between 8,000 and 10,000 cases a year.
And how is the procedure? Just the people know how that stuff works, because I know how that works, but coming from you is much better to understand. How's the procedure when the witness report the sighting? What's the start in the MUFON from there?
Well, generally, it's when a witness or an experiencer goes to our website, MUFON.com, and right there it says report a UFO. They click on that. They fill out the form. They give all of their information, all their details. Then the computer system automatically forwards that to either the state or the national director. The national director, such as yourself, will then take that case and give it to an available investigator, a trained investigator, closest to the site where the incident took place. The investigator or investigators, if necessary, will get on that case, and they will dig it and dig it and dig it until they can reach a suitable conclusion to it. Now, we currently have 600 trained investigators in 48 different countries in all 50 states in the U.S. So we've got a really extensive network. So usually we're never in a situation where suddenly we have no investigator to look at it. We've always got backup somewhere we can get an investigator to work the case. So in a nutshell, that's how it works from beginning to end. Now, when we reach the end of the line, let's say we have a really intriguing case and we can't figure anything out on it. I mean, it's unknown. Well, then we have a team, or sort of a review board. And this is a group of scientists from just about every science you can think of, physics, whatever it happens to be. And they will then try to just tear it apart and find out, was there mistakes made? It's pretty well gone through. Well, when they reach a conclusion, it's unknown. Boy, you got a whopper on your hands. So that's how our procedure works. I hope I answered your question on it.
Yes, and it works fine, because all response we have a good response from the witness when I answer back to them. They love it. Our conclusion, of course, they not always happy, because everyone desire to have filmed a extraterrestrial vehicle or some kind of alien being, but they are glad that we have the answer to them. Well, MUFON is today the largest UFO organization in the world, and is a reference. How is the MUFON viewed by people in the United States, the society? Because here in Brazil, the MUFON is seen as one of the pillars of the serious UFO research. How the people see MUFON in the United States?
Well, in good favor right now, but it wasn't always that way. Going back into the earlier days, there were efforts to belittle and humiliate anybody that came forward with a sighting. They tried to, when I say they, I'm talking about the government officials. They had a program that just absolutely brutalized these folks, mentally, that is, make them look like fools. So you had to suffer through all of that. But today, we're looked at in a whole different view. Finally, after all these years, we're looking pretty good in the public eye. Our numbers are growing. Our respect is growing. And that's on a global basis, not just the U.S. I heard a funny report some time ago that reminded me of this. And it said that the most sought after husband material in the world are American males, see, with the exception of one category, American females. So it reminded me of the government. MUFON is one of the most sought after shining beacons of information on ufology in the world, with the exception of one country. And all I can say is, come on, Uncle Sam, let's get on board here. And they are. We currently work with government officials. THIAGO, they're on the highest rungs in the darkest corners of intelligence. So we have relationships that is quite beyond value. And oh my, the stuff they know is staggering.
But do you think that they're gonna let us know, the public know what they have in this dark sides, the dark corners? Because we had the UAPs and the TikTok. We had it a few years ago. There is more to show.
There's a lot more. And we were all underwhelmed when that final report came out, that report to Congress back in July. I mean, 180 days to work on this thing with all of the resources that the government has. And the best they can do is a 17-page report.
I have mail for you.
Goodness gracious, that's just ridiculous. But what did happen, which we're all grateful for, they did publicly admit, yes, the phenomenon is real. No, we don't know what all of them are. That's a huge step. And when I would give my talks in the past, people would ask me the same thing. When are we going to see disclosure? And I told them, I said, I do not think I will see full disclosure in my lifetime. I'm starting to change my mind now. I just might. Little bits have been slipping out over the years, small doses. And you can just see it starting to change. It's no longer a laughable field. When you consider the vastness, the unimaginable vastness of our world, our being, it's pretty hard to say that there's not even a chance of there being life elsewhere. I mean, there's a powerful chance when you think that we're talking about billions of planets. It's out there. And we've grown up, our generation, we grew up with Star Trek and Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica. Hell, I remember Flash Garden. And the concept of life on other planets is old hat to us. But I'm sure there are reasons why they have continued to keep the lid on it. So, but it's getting a heck of a lot better.
Yeah, but this is speech that they are the speech of the government that, well, these objects are unknown. It's the same speech of the Robertson panel when they close it, and so from there we have nothing more than the investigation. Don't be afraid that that happened, and now they're gonna keep silence and let the time pass by.
I think that's a possibility. The less advertising, the less exposure you give, the less people pay attention. But fortunately, we have time on our side. We have people like you and others all over the world. We have subscribers numbering into the millions. And these are the people that aren't going to let it go. They'll keep probing until they turn it loose. And they're starting to.
Yeah, I hope so. My kids, my siblings, my boy, my girl, when I asked them, do you believe that we have been visited by another race, another alien race? And they asked me back, we are not. So they are prepared already.
Well, certainly.
They are prepared already. And not because his father is an ufologist, because they know it.
Yeah, well, sure, of course. For people like us, it's easy to say, hey, it's common sense. Of course there could be other life out there. But there are folks out there that see it different. And MUFON is not here to change anyone's mind. MUFON is here to investigate and research and educate. So we research the data, we research the cases, we say, here's what we got, here's the answers that we came up with, make up your own mind. And it works out pretty well for us.
Yes, that's correct way to go on. And has MUFON ever suffered any kind of censorship or threat?
Well, yes. It used to be next to impossible to even get an interview. I mean, this interview 20 years ago, 30 years ago would have been unheard of. Well, we didn't have the technology then. But I can remember different cases where a story broke about a UFO. Well, the newscasters would be slapping their legs and laughing and carrying on. But you don't see that quite so much anymore. Matter of fact, that's a rarity. Now it's given the same level of credibility going in as any other news story that breaks. And that's encouraging. You can now start to have reasonable conversations about the subject without fear of ridicule or shutdown. So I'm happy with the way it's going.
That's great. David, do you think, well, MUFON is the world's largest UFO organization, but do you think that we need more UFO organization in the world? Not to compare with MUFON, but to help the disclosure.
Oh, I would love to see, and I'm actively working on it, where we could have roundtables amongst the various groups that are around the world, around the country, where we could all sit down and exchange knowledge and ideas, have more open discussion. I'm looking forward to getting something like that together. We did that in Paris, back in 12 or 13, I think it was. I should say 12 and 13. We had it 2 years in a row, and it was very, very nice. We had leaders from both government and private groups. They all met there. We called it the Conclave in Paris. And there was a tremendous amount of camaraderie and working together. You just kind of got to put your personal side together and just be open with everybody. And it works out pretty well. And I'd like to see more of that. The biggest problem with that is funding, money. It's very hard for a lot of the folks to be able to travel to a location, no matter where it is, for a 2 or 3 day meeting. But I think we can head that way. I really do. And now with the concept of meetings like this, using Zoom or Steam or whatever it is, you can get people from all over the world to come to a central virtual location and work together. And I like that idea.
Yeah, the pandemic, 99% was bad. But this 1% is virtual meetings as we're doing now, because there's no boundaries anymore. You can speak with a person in Japan, in Brazil, United States at the same time. Of course, the time zones, different time zones, but you can put all together in one meeting, and it's fabulous. David, in all of your years of UFO research, which cases do you think that more impress you?
Wow. Being in my position, there's a lot of them. I can tell you the one of them that I personally was involved in was a case in the central western part of the United States, a state called Oklahoma. And we had the report come in. This lady was out feeding her horses at midnight. I guess that's what you do in this particular part of Oklahoma at midnight. It is so desolate that if anybody would ever ask you, hey, where have you been? And you said nowhere. Well, that's right next to where we were. And she had filed a report, and I was a member of the STAR team, and I was there within 24 hours, I guess it was. Went out to this corral, which was not too much more than fence post and split rail. I mean, there wasn't like a barn or a house or barely a lean-to. And it was amazing what I found. She explained to us how she was feeding the horses, and she saw an unusual light slowly coming across the sky. And it turned and starts coming directly towards her. Well, she talks about being frantic and terrified, and she grabs this dog that was with her, her little dog, runs across the gravel driveway and flip-flops trying to get to her truck, throws the dog in the truck. The dog's terrified as well. So she goes to pull out of the driveway to the main road and realizes that she has to turn left to get home. But this thing's hovering right over the road there. So she went right. It's a dead end. And her landlord lived down there. So now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. She goes flying into the landlord's yard, lights flashing, horn blowing. This is 1 o'clock in the morning out in Oklahoma. I mean, you don't do that. But anyway, he came out, calmed her down. She was a wreck. She was hysterical for whatever she saw. And they had to call her husband, and he came out. He took her home. They got her relatively settled down. Well, when I got on the scene, I found 3 circular marks in a triangular pattern where you could see this thing set down, and it even slid forward a little bit. Oh my goodness, I took all kind of soil samples, greenery samples. The grass under this pad was, it was just brown. Everything else around it was green. There were horses there. Took samples of them because they had marks on them that was unexplained. I was sitting there with them, and it was starting to get dark. And all of a sudden, every light in the sky terrified her. This was the real deal. This woman was a trained psychiatrist. She had worked in the prison system, dealing with criminals. And I mean, she had a head on her shoulders. She wasn't out the window. She's damn stable. Well, she sees this light and she said, oh my God, it's coming back. I said, whoa, no, cool your engine. It's an airplane. No, it's not. I said, listen, it's an airplane. Now, I'm a pilot myself. And I happen to have in my bag a chart which shows a Victor airway. I said, now that's on what we call a Victor airway. It's like a highway in the sky. Now, in 3 minutes, you'll see another one. That calmed her down. Then she says, oh, God, what's that? And see, by sheer luck, I mean, I'm no genius, but by sheer luck, I happened to hear that the space station would be visible at that point in time. Well, that's what it was. That calmed her down. So her husband very calmly looks up, and he looks at me and he said, well, sir, what's that? Man, I looked up and my jaw dropped because I didn't know what it was. It was 5 fluorescent green spheres in a V-shaped pattern just booking across the sky silently. So one thing led to another. I got back, filed my reports. Of course, it's an unknown. I actually think it turned into an abduction. And about 2 weeks later, she sent me a picture of the strangest array of lights hanging over her house she ever saw. So that was the most compelling, fascinating case. And I still try to communicate with her on and off. And that's just one. That's just one. We've got over 100,000 in our data banks and in our storage units. I don't know if you remember the TV series Hangar One. Well, Hangar One is right outside that window behind me. And I remember having over 100,000 paper cases stored there. And oh my goodness. When you think of that many cases, and that's just one of them, it's a fascinating game. I mean, it just keeps you excited all the time.
Yeah, I have all the episodes of Hangar One. It's amazing, and I asked it to Mark D'Antonio and asked to Steve Hughes if this hangar exists, and he said, "Yes, we had it. It's amazing. It's amazing. I would like to go there someday."
Well, it's Hangar 3, but the producers thought Hangar 1 sounded a lot cooler, so that's why they called it Hangar 1. But it's mysterious, and there's nothing there anymore. There's no files there. We got them in a storage facility called Iron Mountain, and I think I still got 150, 200 cases of data still in California, not counting what I've already moved here. So it's a big venture trying to get this stuff moved. But it's a real location. And I think sometime in January, MUFON TV is going to be in Cincinnati, filming the new location and all that. And I'm sure we'll have Hangar 1, some pictures of Hangar 1 in there for everybody to see. But it's really creepy.
It's amazing. It's a pop culture mark. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about Hangar 1, and we have several TV series about UFO and mysteries, like X-Files and the History Channel Project Blue Book. This series, these shows, these films, help it or harm it, ufology? What do you think?
Well, it depends on who's watching the program. 90% of the people thought that Hangar 1 was really, really great. Really, because matter of fact, we had the highest ratings for 2 years running. And what caused its downfall is a long and involved story. And I really don't want to get into it. But for the most part, it was well accepted. But now there were a group, even within MUFON, within the world, of very hardline folks who felt like it was over dramatized. And I didn't think so. I mean, that's what the public wants to see. They want to know what was the case, how was it involved, and how did it work through. And that's what we did. Now, to make any TV series work, you got to hold the people's attention. You can't do that by having a rather dead-faced a person sitting in front of a microphone droning on about the facts of the case. They're not going to watch it, period. So you have to dramatize it a little bit to bring out the emotion that was involved and how people felt and what they saw and how you would feel if you was confronted with that. So overall, it was very well received. We had very, very high ratings. But there were a group of people who just didn't like the idea of dramatizing it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. Well, MUFON offers the best, and I think the only one, field research course. I have it, of course. And why this pattern, this course, is so important to the UFO research?
Okay, I had a little trouble hearing you. Would you repeat the question?
Sure. MUFON has the best field research course.
Okay.
For ufologists. And why, in your opinion, it is so important to the UFO research we have this course? Well,
we've got number one is the level of our investigators and our people, just like yourself. You've gone through the training. You know what's involved. You first you have a pretty thick manual which you have to go through, study. You go online to take an exam. Once you do that, MUFON University has hundreds of educational shows available, programs available that for free, and you can sit there and go through this stuff and learn more and more about the investigative side of the game. So our training and our vetting of our investigators is key to making MUFON the investigative operation that it is. Back in the early days, I understand that there was 2 8-year-olds and a dog certified as investigators, but those days are long gone. That was 50 years ago, long gone. Now we've literally got the cream of the crop. We've got well-trained, presentable, level-headed investigators that work these cases to turn out the best possible result that we
Master, I have mail for you.
And well, many old school, let's say, ufologists here in Brazil, and I think in the world, say that the field research is being lost because the internet, because people don't want to go to the field anymore. What's your opinion about this? Do you feel the same? Do you think that we are leaving the field research aside just to watch a screen on a computer and say, well, I think is that. I think is that. Do you have the same feeling?
Oh, from my perspective, where I'm sitting, no, I don't. I don't think that you can read a case on a computer and render a decision that I think it's this. Well, what makes you think that? What is it that you're missing here? You know, you got to get up off your keister and go on site and use the tools that we have. And believe me, we've got some incredible investigative tools. We have our own laboratory. I don't know if you know that or not. I'm sure you probably do, but it is of high enough tier that we can do anything from metallurgy to DNA at that lab. We have our own dive team, fully equipped, ready to go. We can do underwater search as well. So it's far more than reading the report and saying, oh, it was an airplane. You know, before they can put that down, they have to look at the radar charts, and then they have to regress them back to that date and prove that there was an airplane there at that time, or airplanes, that would coincide with the time of the sighting. And even that's not enough to say there couldn't have been something else there. It runs pretty darn deep. These investigations, I mean, they are in there. They're studying the weather at that time. They're studying what was in the air. If there was something on the ground that gets really intense, they go in, they take vegetation samples. This one in Oklahoma, I sent the samples in, and the control stuff came back normal. But where this thing touched down, it however it changed, it would not accept one single drop of water. It was hydroponic. I think that's the word. So, you know, there's just so many factors that trying to settle one of these cases in a couple of hours, we don't like that at all. You know, our people have to back up what they report. They gotta prove to the state director or the national director, such as yourself, or the chief investigator, this is what I based this on. And if it's not valid, you're going to be sent back out again. I mean, I'm proud of our people. I'm proud of every one of them. They work hard, just like yourself. You have to work all day. You have families. After work, you go home. You do the dishes, cut the grass, do whatever you have to do at home, and maybe you'll have a couple hours before you finally go to bed to deal with your UFO stuff. These are dedicated folks. They are wonderful. I don't care where in the world they are. If they've gone through MUFON, they're top notch.
That's our life. That's our lives. You know that.
I do. Believe me. Ask my wife.
Ask my wife as well.
Yeah, well, but in reality, Sharon, my wife, she was the office director back when I was director the first time, and she still is today. She's a full-blown director. She's an investigator. Our registrar here at the school, she ran all of the CMS stuff and had to be taken care of. So she's on board still. And then we have, the office manager over at the other building, which is about 100 yards away. And of course, Marquette is still with us. She's heading up the symposium. We got a hell of a staff going. So it's working and it's growing, and we're saving enormous amounts of money being in Cincinnati. Things are going well. They're going really well.
That's great. That's one of the things that make MUFON big, great, and growing, of course. But David, we have all these tools. We have testimonies, we have photos, we have videos, but we don't have the evidence. We don't have the piece of a UFO. We don't have the bone of an alien. Do you think that it is what is the missing thing, the thing that we looking for to show the rest of the world that don't believe that we have been visited by aliens?
Well, we have, again, hundreds of thousands of eyewitness reports. Now, no matter where in the world we go, what is the absolute backbone of our justice system? It's eyewitness testimony. Now, let's say that you and I witness a robbery, and we call for the police, and the police come and we give them an exact description of who the perpetrator was. And they go out and they catch the guy and they put him on trial, and we have to testify that, yes, we saw him do this, and they put him in jail. So now you and me, we walk out and say, boy, that was really intense. Yeah, let's go get a beer. So we're walking down the street and lo and behold, there's a flying saucer right dead in the air in front of us. We call for the police. They come rushing. We said, man, we saw this UFO. It's up in the sky. You guys are nuts. You've been to the bar. Come on. So the point is that we have so much eyewitness testimony. There can't be that much smoke without fire. Now, I can get into some of the really dark stuff. For example, you can look this up. You can look it up on Google. I'm going to slay the man's name. I think it's Jaime Shamid. He was a high-ranking Israeli intelligence officer and also a college professor. And this is going to get dark and it's going to get crazy, but you can call me crazy, but I heard it with my own ears, and you can too. He came out with the public statement, that President Trump was on the verge of total disclosure, and that the aliens themselves waved him off and asked him not to, because they asked him, let this out in small pieces, small doses. believe me, if you drop this bomb, your people they're not gonna do well with it. Little pieces. Okay, call him crazy if you want. That's fine. But now let's go back to President Obama. You can look this up too. The Jimmy Kimmel Show. And Kimmel asked him, "Sir, when are you going to tell us about the aliens?" And you see his face change. And he looks at him and he said, "We will tell you about the aliens when the aliens tell us we can. There are very strict rules." That was his exact words on TV. Let's drop back to President Clinton. When asked, "When are you going to have disclosure?" And his words were, "I cannot tell you about this because it's handled by a branch of the government I'm not part of." Now you can go back to several others and you start putting these pieces together. Are they all crazy? I don't think so. I don't think so. We have some pretty very, very high ranking people on video saying, yes, we do have crash material from the flying saucers, or flying craft. And that's where fiber optics came from. That's where the computer chips came from. Hell, the transistor probably. And they have gone as far as to say, yes, we do interchange with aliens. That's a pretty strong statement. And that there's people that are probably in the loony bin for putting something like that out. But you can hear it for yourself. I mean, I'm not dreaming this up. You can Google it. You'll find it. It's out there. So there you have at least 3 former presidents of the United States. We don't know about the rest of the world, but I'm sure they're out there. The evidence is so strong. It's pretty hard to deny. It really is. Something happened in the deserts.
Yeah, I agree.
And even if you go back 1,000 years, maybe further, and look at some of the artwork, even in the churches, you cannot deny that it's a flying saucer with a beam coming down on the Blessed Virgin or whoever is in the picture. They saw something. You can go back as far as you want, and you find these ancient paintings and that are just, those people had to see something to conjure up whatever it was they were painting or drawing or scratching on a cave. So you start looking at this old stuff. Whatever happened in our deserts happened. When you have police officers with damaged police cars, giving their testimony, it's only so long you can keep burying this stuff. Like I say, we have time on our side. Usually a cover-up is done very quick and without a heck of a lot of time or forethought. Sooner or later it comes apart, especially when you got people like us that just very steadily keep chipping away. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll see it. David, what changed in ufology, in your opinion, your perspective, since when you start to research to nowadays? What changed in this period of time?
Well, the biggest change is the computers. You go back to 69, 70, we didn't have any of that. Everything was either handwritten or typed. And as the computers evolved, it made it possible to find more and more data to report and to store more data. The technology today that we have today is, oh my God, it baffles me. I mean, when we're about to turn loose of our observer group, and the observer group will be every member of MUFON, and we have an app, and in the palm of your hand, you can have access to the hundreds of thousands of pieces of data that we have. You can interchange back and forth around the world with other investigators. I mean, it's not released. I hope to have released it at the last symposium, but we got hung up on one of the login things had to be straightened out. So that's about done now. We're about ready to go with it. So we'll be releasing that soon. And in today's world, there's no longer barriers as far as exchange of data in that case, well, at least the free world. You and I, we're what, 3,000 miles apart or better, probably better than that. And we're sitting here talking like you're in the next room. So just imagine in a few months, any one of our members, our observers, will have the capability of doing that very same thing on a closed app. So those are some of the biggest changes that continue to amaze me. And I'm not technologically savvy. I mean, if I push the button and it don't work, I have to scream for my 8-year-old granddaughter to come and work it out for me, But that's been the biggest boon, because it's not like taking a picture with a Polaroid camera anymore. You can record it live and be broadcasting it as it's happening today. So, boy, I mean, we've got tools at our disposal, and all we need is a little bit more cooperation from the powers that be, and we're going to have our answers. Right now, we've switched somewhat from the standpoint that people will come up to you and say, I don't believe that, prove it. Well, we're in a position where we can look at them and say, prove that it's not. So we're in a very good place right now. With the technology at hand, we're very close to some breakthroughs here. So keep the faith, man. It's moving.
That's great. Well, from July 8th to 10th of 2022, we will have another UFO symposium, MUFON, in Denver, Colorado. Yeah. What are your expectations for this event?
Well, what I was getting ready to say is we're kind of switching off a little bit. I'll get to the symposium in a second. In so much as we're focusing now on who are they? Who's driving those things? Where did they come from? We're beyond the point of do they exist? Yeah, they exist. There's no getting around it. Now we're working on where are they coming from? So that's a neat prospect. Now for the upcoming convention, we are dedicating it. The theme is UFOs in the spotlight, and we want our speakers. We're bringing speakers in, large number of broadcasters, to discuss how has the media changed from 50 years ago to today on handling the UFO question. I think that's going to be pretty exciting because we do have some top-notch news broadcasters we're trying to bring in, and they probably can give a lot of insight, and they'll probably back up pretty much what I said before, that we don't take the ridicule that we used to. Now it's being taken seriously, very seriously. And that's what our theme's going to be. I'm hoping for a very good, very strong turnout in 2020 in Denver. And in 2023, we're going to be here in Cincinnati for the symposium, and that's going to center on UFOs, friend or foes. We'll be looking into Who are they? Where are they coming from? Are they our buddies, or do we have to watch out for them? I personally think they're our buddies. I mean, if you think about it, there has not been one hostile attack. I mean, an attack. I think there's been a few cases where they shot back, but they were being attacked first. Every day, I'm told by our Pentagon contacts, every day there are naval commanders reporting into the Pentagon. We're being buzzed. They're buzzing us every day. They're flying along with us. They go down under the water and come up under, but never once were they aggressive. It's more like, hey, y'all, watch this. Let's buzz this boat. So you've got all these reports coming in. None of them are intentionally hostile. So I think that there have been incidences. There's no question people have come up with radiation burns, difficulties like that. But again, I don't think it was an intentional attack. It's much like us trying to do legitimate research on a bunny. Sometimes something happens that you didn't mean to have happen, or it reacted in a different way than you anticipated. I think that could happen, but I don't foresee anything hostile out there, because with the technology they got, if they was hostile, we'd be wiped out 1,000 years ago. So,
I agree. Well, David, to end our interview, how is MUFON preparing for the future from now on?
Okay, going forward, like I say, our thrust is to continue our research, continue our educating the public, and continue our investigation, because now we know they're there. We know they're real. Even the governments of the world admit they're real. We don't really know what they are. So now the thrust is going to be turning to, well, who are they then? We know they're real. Are they earthly technology? It's a nice way to slide out of it, but I doubt it. The stuff that we see about defies physics. It defies everything that we have at this point. You can't go 3,000 miles an hour, stop on a dime, and boom, go backwards. We don't have anything that will do that right now. Or maybe we do that we just don't know about. But I think right now we're going to continue the education and the investigations. We're going to continue the research, but we're going to be looking at it as a little more towards, who are they? We've already got the data of how many are round, how many do this, how many are triangular shape. We've got all of that. So now we just have to start eliminating and trying to figure out, where in the world are these guys coming from? And,
that's great.
There was a gentleman by the name of Ben Rich. He was the head of the Skunk Works. And I heard at a talk him say, somebody asked him, they said, hey, what's all this business? Why are we hopping rides with the Russians? Don't we, And his answer was, we don't need it. We already have it. He said, if you can imagine it, we already have it. We've been to the stars. We've been to all the planets. We've done it in days, not years, not light years. So we got it now. Now, this was a highly respected, level-headed, sane man who answered a question with that answer. That's pretty impressive, So again, let's find out who's got what, where they're coming from, and by golly, we'll take it from there. And you and me will still be looking to the skies for as long as it takes.
That's correct. That's correct. David, I would like to thank you very much for your time. Very good interview. Something I never heard before. So the Brazilian audience is gonna love it.
Yeah, it's pretty staggering. It really is. And the point is, you can look that stuff up. I didn't make that up. You know,
I know.
I heard it with my own ears. Saw it on TV. So
I know, and I will try to go to Denver to the UFO symposium. So meet you in person, and meet you the Robert and everybody else.
I would love that, and I might be able to make it down to your neck of the woods too. Just time is a premium right now.
Really, that's right. That's right. So thank you very much, David,
Thank you,
for your
sir.
time, and I hope to meet each other soon and in person.
Yes, sir. I look forward to that as well. And you have a wonderful day, and keep looking up. Good hunting.
For sure. Thank you. É isso, pessoal. Espero que vocês tenham gostado dessa incrível entrevista com o diretor executivo da MUFON. Muitas coisas certamente eram desconhecidas, tanto de vocês quanto de mim. É isso. Continuem assistindo o canal, compartilhem o canal, comentem, deem seus likes. Um abraço e até a próxima.